All right, people, we've got a lower session, and this is sort of the first of a sort of series I want to start doing a little bit more frequently than the less professional videos that I don't have as much time to get through and to record and edit myself. So I've got James here. We're gonna record lower today, and if you're up to date with what I'm currently doing, off season and running an upper lower, 2 lower and 2 upper rotations. So I'm training everything 6 days, or the same session every 6 days. And I've just recently done a little reshuffle of the layout of sessions. So most of my hamstring stuff is at the back end, as they're pretty strong. So prioritizing more quads, a bit more adductor. In this session in particular, I have my arm work at the start as well. That's how I'm so I guess you could call it a limbs session. But I like to call it a lower session. And yeah, we're gonna get into it. Haven't changed too much, just exercise sequencing as I mentioned before. I used to do a dumbbell hammer curl and a reverse curl at the end of my arm work, just as a prophylactic exercise selection piece, because I've been getting a cranky elbow and forearm, and it just trains the forearm flexors and the arm flexors, more specifically the bicep, brachioradialis and the brachialis, in different positions of the shoulder. So we've got a bit of internal rotation, and then working the forearm extensors as well, just to try and make sure I have longevity, as you know, if I can't train, that's not productive. So we'll get stuck in. We've got a single arm dumbbell sort of preacher variation and some overhead extensions to start off with. So we'll get to it. Okay, so only really just do 2 warm-ups. For me, the goal of a warm-up is to do as little as possible but be maximally prepared for the set. So 2 warm-ups. It was like 8 or 9 reps and then 5 reps. But compared to my working load, 17.5, I only worked up to 12.5. I generally feel pretty good, ready to go for my working set, which we've got 3 sets here. And the warm-up sets perform exactly the same as the working sets too. It's no different mentally, no different execution-wise. I'm really focusing on driving my upper arm into the pad, and that's my cue, and I get great bicep engagement doing that. So get into the working sets in a second, and then yeah, we'll crack on. All right, so much like my dumbbell curl, I'm not too fussed about getting really short or locking out, so to speak. So like, you mightn't see me completely extending the elbow. I'm just not too fussed about that. Before it was because I was getting pain, but now it's okay. And I spent a bit of time in the stretch just as a way to make sure I'm not requiring my elbow and those connective structures to adapt faster than what they can. Because if you bounce out of this for me, I found that I just ran into a roadblock and had to really pull back for a little bit. So 3 sets here, and then we'll get into some reverse curls, and we'll get into the main piece of legs, which is what we're all here to see.
This one is more structural, like
All right, seat goes all the way back, get as much quad as I can out of it, feet as low as possible while maintaining full foot contact. Got one more warm-up set. I like to use some straps just because it's really like pushing me out of the seat. And yeah, working up. First set, goal is 8 reps, and then a slightly higher rep range on the second set. Drop it down. Got 13 reps at 206 last week, so try and match that up after a bit of rest. Hard set on these really takes it out of you. All right, so first exercise of choice was leg press, quad biceps. Again, feet as low as possible. More of a narrow stance, taking a little bit more of a adductor out of it. You're never going to be able to take everything out of an exercise with setup. That's why we use that word bias. And then into adductors, you know, you can make a good argument that maybe doing a hamstring curl before your leg press is a good way to warm up your knee. But for me, I'm fine without it. If I take my time, do good effective warm-ups, and then I don't need much hamstring. So positioning that stuff to the back end of the session, prioritizing my needs, really. It's as simple as that. I think as long as you've got a rationale behind your choice of exercise selection and sequencing, you can't really go wrong. All right, so was not super happy with how adductors went, but we'll see how we go for next session. I do that machine twice across each lower session with different rep ranges, but I've just got a bit of residual soreness carrying over from my last lower session. I think that's primarily because I was unwell when I got into that last session, so it's sort of that reacclimation period of time, but you know, we'll just assess that as we go on. But again, prioritizing quads, got leg extension next, and then hamstring work. So I'll use the hustler pad. Not that there's much left of it. It's pretty eaten up. I don't know why, but it is. And again, I run leg extensions twice over each lower session, or once over each lower session, and different rep ranges. So this rep range is 12 plus, the other's 8 to 12. So we'll get stuck in. One of my things I focus on when I do this is making sure I get short. It's just how I've chosen to put this in. You could do sort of more lengthened bias leg extension. But for me, focusing on making sure I'm getting fully short. My legs are stacked with my hips, so they're not too wide. A lot of times, sometimes people will be out here, so making sure they're nice and stacked and I can produce force efficiently and distribute it efficiently across my connective tissue and my joints. So feels good for me. Maybe it will feel good for you. You got to try things and see what works best. We'll take 9 today. We'll take 9. Sort of pulled out of that last one just because I knew if I stuck with it, I would have been there for forever. So it's like, you got to go there sometimes, but other times you know, the toss up. You know, is it worth sitting in, you know, the mid-range for 10 seconds as a hypothetical? And the answer is probably no most of the time. All right. Back extensions. Let's go.
What are we doing here?
Dumbbell back extensions. I would say I'm biasing my hamstring. Still getting glute, still getting, you know, some erector, but biasing my hamstring. And to do that, keeping a pretty stiff and straight knee. It's not completely straight, but it's pretty stiff. You know, if you wanted to bias more glute, you have a lot more bend, pre-shorten the hamstring to be able to provide less total force for the given movement. I worked up to 50s, but I pulled it back down a bit just because it was a little bit tedious to pull the 50s over, I'll be honest. But at the same time, by focusing on having the dumbbells higher up, means I have to produce more force to move that load because it's further away from the pivot point. So through that, I'm backing out at 46s, making these better than they were before, and yeah, just rinsing and repeating. I love this movement. It's a bread and butter one of mine. I've been running it for at least a year. And yeah, I got good hamstrings maybe for a reason, so. Just one rep with those and use them again for the working set. I was just saying to James in the past, I've gone straight from a lighter warm-up set to a heavier one, and it just feels really rough. Like there's a lot of tension going through your knee, or at least I feel that. And so I just make sure that one rep on this, yeah, probably not ideal. I'll probably add lift a little bit more, but makes me feel better than not doing it at all. And again, like I said, I'm just making sure that, you know, the upper section of the dumbbell is sort of over the front arm of the machine as a way to keep the distance of the dumbbells away from my pivot point standardized. Makes it harder. All right. I could really just pump out a bunch of reps doing that, but they're not full reps, so sort of just cut it short. All right, leg curls, and then we're out of here. All right, so last exercise, a leaning forward seated hamstring curl. It's just gonna mean that my hamstring's a little bit more lengthened in the lengthened position. And it's a little bit more comfortable to do, I find, without the need of a seatbelt for a normal just seated back, seated leg curl, because your hips aren't moving as much. So yeah, I just like it. I was doing 10 to 15 reps. I'll see how I feel after the back extension, just because again, I did reshuffle things, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna like the slightly higher reps on this, but I'm probably just gonna run with it because I do slightly lower reps on my lying hamstring curl, which is my other hamstring curl variation on my other leg day. So run with it. I focus on trying to make my tibia as long as possible. So I'm trying to keep my heel away from my knee, trying to scrape my heel along the ground. For me, that just gives me a little bit more mind muscle connection. Again, a little 1%er that I like to focus on, but training intensity needs to be there. So that's really the main piece. Make sure intensity is there, and then make it feel as good as possible whilst doing that. And a lot of times it's going to come from execution. So the execution, I say this a lot, is a massive precursor for having a good connection. If you're doing your exercise really well, you're probably going to feel it well too. So that's a good way to know if you're in the right ballpark. Three reps difference from where it is normally, but same to James before. Sequence is very different, so expecting a little bit of fatigue, and it's not too bad. A kilo extra, 3 reps down. I'll get that back pretty quickly with my body just getting used to the new session layout as well. No doubt about that. All right, so finished with some abs, and that is the session lower 2, I believe, wrapped up. Yeah, pretty happy overall. Again, it's really my first full cycle after being unwell for a little bit, but no excuses. Happy with how everything went. Now it's just about building upon that over the meso cycle, and yeah, let me know if there's any questions, and we'll see you in the next vid.